Hey folks, today I want to talk to you a little bit about wreath making. So we just pruned our Thompson seedless grapes, and the grape canes that we had, we twisted into these frames for the wreath. And this is a tighter twist, and basically you take one big cane and you just kind of start a circular pattern and twist, and then you keep twisting depending on the size of your cane. It could take up to like three or four canes that you wrap around over and over again. This is a smaller frame, and this one's a bit of a looser twist. And you don't really need to use any kind of material to keep them together. Eventually they just kind of twist on themselves, and then you get these little tendrils, which are just so cool. So I'm going to be building on this smaller one, and since there's a bit of a looser twist, I'm going to cover this whole thing in greenery, whereas this one that's got a tighter twist, it looks much cleaner. You could do more of a minimalist style, and I'll show you that one in a second, what that might look like. And I've got some other stuff. Basic stuff you're gonna need is some floral wire. This is a thinner gauge. It's 26 gauge. I typically like a little bit of a thicker gauge, like a 22, but this is okay. It just kind of snaps if you twist it too much. And then of course you need scissors, you need this, you need a glue gun. And then you need some material. So these are Nandina berries. You might know this as heavenly bamboo. And these I found are some of the best berries to use because they don't get mushy, they don't rot, they stay on throughout the holiday season. They stay on their raceme pretty well. And also when they fall off, look at how cute that is. The next thing you're going to need is some greenery. So this is some Sequoia sempervirens or coast redwood. We just harvested this from our neighborhood. And this is, I think this is skyrocket juniper. It was a really upright growing juniper, although it's a lot greener than skyrockets usually are. But it was an upright juniper. And first you want to cut them all into pieces that are usable, and I just kind of look for a shape that I like when I'm pruning them. So they come like this, right? And then this kind of offshoot right over here, this is a great candidate. So you'd prune it down here where my finger is, and you could just find these little pieces that make great, they have a great shape. That's kind of what I look for. And then you'll end up with something kind of like this, and then I stack them, and that way they kind of fill in to be this nice full shape. So I like to use the Sequoia sempervirens as my base. That's actually pretty sparse up top, so I would probably find another long piece to fill in that top. Oh, so this might be nice right here. Okay, so now we've got like kind of a nice full bunch there, and I take off those brown pieces before I actually put them on my wreath. And then I come over to my juniper here, and I might take like 2 or 3 pieces depending on how big they are. This is nice. Okay, and there's my bunch. And you definitely want to use 2 different textures. 2 different textures of plant, and slightly different colors is really nice too, because it just creates this really nice dimension. And when you end up placing it around the wreath, it just gives a nice dimension, nice kind of flow to it, and it doesn't look as, flat. So I'll show you how I mount them to the wreaths. Okay, so I start by layering. Ooh, that's a good one. layering them so that way you get a little bit of asymmetry, also like a balance of density of the foliage. Probably do like one more here. I kind of like the way that one comes off to the side, so you can see it starts to balance out. And then I take some of my juniper, that alternative texture. I like how this is bright green with this. And you don't have to overdo it. It's really just creating those interesting levels. Okay, I'm kind of happy with that. So now I'm going to come over here, and you can see I started putting my bunches on the frame, and you want to layer them on top of each other, and that's what's going to create this nice flow around and so what I do is I take your wire and you leave a little bit of a lead end to twist later, and I try to kind of weave it around the foliage, so you leave the foliage out. It just looks nicer and it kind of hides your wire later. And so cut. On the more tightly wound frames, I just do the wire all the way around, but since this is broader, if you try to go all the way around, you're going to use up a lot of wire doing that. So I just cover the last wire with the new one, and I'll find a cane that I like and I kind of weave it under. Okay, maybe this way will be better. Yes, success. And I'll twist them to that cane, and that anchors them down, and it holds the foliage together, your little bunch, really nicely. That guy's getting in my way. And then tuck that piece underneath. There you go. Okay, now you can see I've got the greenery all filled in. You can't even really see the frame at all. And what I like to do is kind of like, earthquake test. I hold it up and give it a little shake, make sure nothing is falling off and I don't have any major bald spots. And keep in mind that if you do have kind of a bald spot at the end, you can take the individual sprigs that you've cut and fill in those bald spots. And the cool thing about the braided frame is that there's all this stuff underneath, all these little cracks and crevices you can tuck other sprigs into to kind of cover up any kind of spot you don't like. So it looks a little wild and unwieldy now, but I'll eventually kind of identify some of the parts that are hanging off that look too messy. I'll prune them off. Some of them kind of dangle in a flattering way, so I might leave it. That one's kind of wild. But I kind of wait to do that until after I have all the decorations on. And then I trim up, because sometimes you add decorations that kind of holds things down. So now I got to pick my decorations, and earlier Michelle from the shop made a bunch of bows. I really love this bow, so I'm going to use this one, and it's going to look really great with those well, it would look great with these pyracantha berries, but we're deciding not to use them because you can see they're already starting to mold and they get a little squishy, so they just don't withstand the test of time. I think they would look beautiful. But I'm going to use the Nandina berries instead because I want them to last. And I'm going to use these little cedar rosettes I showed you earlier. And so this is where hot glue starts to come in handy. And the bow is really easy to hot glue to the frame, but since I'm covering the frame with greenery here, I am going to use a little bit of my floral wire. And then I will glue my rosettes straight to the greenery. And that takes a little bit of, frankly, persistence to get it to stay, because the greenery is kind of floppy, right? So that's what I was trying to show you. So I use a little bit of extra floral wire mixed with hot glue to get the bow to stick to it and the rosettes. I like these instead of pine cones because pine cones are heavier and they fall, and you know how, if you've ever used hot glue, you know it doesn't always do you right. And then what's really also cool about the grapevine frame is it's really easy to just get them in there. And now look at that, and already you can start to see it come together, right? Just a little bit of color. So I'll show you the finished product once I'm done. All right, you can see I put the bow on. So I used floral wire to weave through the greenery and attach it to the frame on the back. And I reinforced it with some hot glue. And then I used hot glue to put these rosettes here right underneath it. And I glued them together and to the greenery. And then I also glued the greenery to the frame. So it's like glue on glue on glue there. And then I added the berries. And I like my berry distribution. Now you can see I've got some really scraggly looking extra pieces. And so, yeah, in the middle here too. And yeah, thanks Caleb. So now I'm going to come in with my pruners and just clean it up, give it a nice little haircut, and make it nice and tight. So I'll end with the final product. All right, so there you have it. Cleaned up all those edges that were kind of scraggling, and I left this tendril in the middle because I just think it's kind of cute. Looks kind of rustic. So the next thing I'll do is I'll make a little hanger out of the floral wire, so that way you can hang it on a door with a screw or a hook. And the next thing you need to do is come buy it. We've got all kinds of wreaths, for handmade wreaths for sale. They're $25. And so let me give you a little glimpse of what the other things we've made. So here are some just plain frames that you can buy. That one's thick. That's a big one. And these are 12. Here's another one hanging here. So these are ready and just waiting for your creative touch. And here's an interesting one with some burlap and a burlap bow. And then we've got this one, and this has a little bird's nest on it with the pink bow. A little minimalist there. This one is for a little bit more of the flashy folks. A little bit of discotheque going on there. And then we have another just darling minimalist with a little bit of asymmetry going on. Lots of very cute tendrils. So come on down and check out what we've got.